my slides visible?
Yes.
So first of all, let me thank Dr. Malika Goyal and AIOS for this IC. And so I will be speaking about refractory macular holes and what can we do in some of these cases. Now, if we look at it, there are essentially two types of macular hole closures which have been described. Type 1, which is flat or closed. Type 2, which is flat but open. And sometimes you can have these persistent macular holes even after a surgery. So what can we do for them? Now, there are a lot of options available. If we go through literature, if we go through what has been done, practically so many things have been tried. Inverted ILM flaps, free flaps, autologous. People have tried lens capsular flaps, retinal flaps, perifoveal radial incisions, arcuate retinotomy. So multiple attempts, multiple techniques have been tried. But the two most common ones which are more commonly in use are number one, either an autologous ILM flap or something which has now become very common, which is a retinal flap, and we'll come to both of them. Inverted ILM flap, I'll not deal about it. It's already been discussed so many times about what inverted ILM flap does. But we are discussing right now about autologous ILM flaps. And let me just show you what happens over here. The problem with autologous ILM is that even if you have harvested it from another place, this is something which you have to be careful. And I wanted to show this video. This was actually initially attempted by one of my fellows, and then I had to go and intervene. But these are the problems which happen if you do not position your ILM. Even after you have used it or harvested it, it tends to float away. And once it goes away, it becomes difficult to catch hold of it and put it. Either you lose the flap or then you will have to reharvest it. So this is the problem which my fellow was initially facing, where the flap just got totally lost. And then later on, we were able to catch hold of a flap, bring it back. There are people who have tried using PFCL. Under PFCL, they've tried it, but I have somehow always felt that under PFCL, there is always a small risk of a small bubble getting entrapped over there. And most of the times I've been able to manage without PFCL. So after you have trapped your flap over here, you can just bring it, gently guide it over here and place it. So this was initial struggles which somebody was facing. But once you have it over here in place, you can just safely tuck it in. And after you have tucked it in, you have to be very careful. You can't be pressing so hard. This is another video of another of my colleagues. I got it through one of my colleagues, Hitesh Agarwal. This was his attempt where he tried to harvest multiple flaps. Initially, again, it got displaced. So the problem with these flaps is sometimes these can get displaced and you have to be careful about them. Once you have harvested them, place them gently and you will be able to achieve success. I will just come to... So the problem, like I said over here, was displacement of flap. And what you can do is, number one, you can take a slightly larger flap and then you can tuck it over there. Sometimes people have also attempted putting a coat of viscoelastic over there. What we have sometimes done is use an autologous serum to stabilize the flap over there. But even if you don't have access to viscoelastic or autologous serum, you can still just safely take a flap or a part of ILM and put it over here in these cases. If the ILM free flap does not succeed, then the other technique which we have resorted to is what we call an autologous neurosensory retinal graft. This was a technique which was described initially by Dr. Dilraj Grewal and Dr. Tamer Mahmood in 2016, which they have tried extensively for refractory myopic macular holes initially, and now it's been commonly used even for other refractory holes. And this is one of our patients whom we had seen who had already undergone a surgery elsewhere before they came to us, and the hole was open. And this is how the surgery, so this is the surgery over here. We just completed the vitrectomy. Some residual vitreous was there. We removed it. And after that, we basically, first of all, marked the area from where we were harvesting the flap with the laser marks. Again, the point over here to remember is that you should take a larger size, and usually around 30% more than what you initially attempt for the whole size. After doing a dithermy, you can safely use a scissor to harvest this. One point to remember is kindly do not do extensive cauterization. Because if you do, then the edges of the margin of the flap become a bit necrotic. So after you have taken a flap, again, there are people who describe using PFCL and gliding it under PFCL. But most of the times I have been able to manage even without the help of PFCL. What you can just safely do is there was a small blood clot over here, which we just removed. And subsequently, we had injected autologous serum over here in this case in the hope that we wanted to try whether it will help in a better improvement of the receptor functions over there. But even if you don't have, you can just safely go ahead and place it over there. You just take your graft and you can just place it and tuck it over here. In these cases, usually I do end up putting oil inside the eye and subsequently your graft is safely ensconced inside. And this is how the first post-operative day photograph was, and you can see over here on the OCT that the graft is nicely in place. What happens subsequently though in all of these cases, and now we've got a more than 2-year follow-up of some of our patients, is that the edges of the graft do tend to regress a little bit, and then you see over a period of time an area of the hole which is devoid of the cover of the graft. But the visual acuity in most of these cases does tend to improve. So this is the patient post-operatively later on, and this is another patient with a large macular hole, and this is the first post-operative day visit where you can see this graft well placed inside the macular hole, and this is subsequently, and the visual acuity also improves in most of these cases. This is later on at a 1 to 3 month follow-up. Again, the graft was in place. The point is that you can use a soft tip cannula or a forceps or even a scissor to separate it. PFCL can be used to ease the transportation of the retinal graft under the PFCL. You can glide it over there. And the most important step is a slow fluid air exchange to avoid displacement of the graft. One small tip is that if you are doing a fluid air exchange with the help of a cutter, you can ensure that the tip of the cutter or the opening is away from the graft side. So your opening of the cutter is nasally, and that will help in preventing with vacuum or a tug over there at the graft so that the graft displacement is reduced. So that is something which you can do to ensure that the graft stays in place. Arcuate retinotomies have been tried in radial incisions. I actually have no personal experience with radial incisions or arcuate retinotomies. My preferred technique for all of these is the retinal free flap for most of my macular holes. So with that, I would probably conclude. Like I said, there have been other modifications where people have used autologous heparinized blood also in autologous serum. But what has worked best for us in most of these macular refractory cases are the use of the retinal free flap. So with that, I would say that these are techniques which do end up having a good anatomical result. Though to be honest, the long-term functional outcomes still need to be analyzed. Like I said, we have 2-year outcomes of most of our graft patients, and we have seen that at the end of 2 years, the graft does tend to regress and reduce in size. I actually even discussed with Dr. Dilraj Grewal as to what has his experience been in his cases, and even they agree that over a period of time, the graft does tend to shrink. But they say after a period of 6 months or a year, the shrinkage stops and it becomes kind of stable at that point of time. So long-term outcomes though are still awaited, but this is a promising technique and works well in macular holes, refractory ones. Mind you, I would not suggest that you go and attempt it for your idiopathic macular holes, but cases which have already undergone a surgery, it's a promising technique which is being now commonly done by a lot of retinal surgeons for these macular cases, refractory cases. Thank you.